kids. And it was a small community. Like I said, it was all working class. Nobody had a lot of money. That's how Detroit was many, many years ago. You had an Arabic community in Detroit, a black community, a Polish community, a Hispanic community, different types of communities. And everybody kind of got along. This was an amazing community, but it's going through a lot of changes which are kind of difficult. But this is the Lincoln, that's the landing site of Don, because there's statues of him all around the city. But right now I want to tell you the truth about him. Don Pedro Menendez was handpicked by the King of Spain. He was sent here on a mission. His job was simple. He was to set this town up, to convert the native Indians to Catholicism. They were happy like they were, but you know, and he marches 210 of them out onto the oyster beds right out in our Bay Area, cuts them from neck to navel, throws their bodies in the water, and kills them. Documented by the actually ran red with their blood for 3 days in a row. Now, as I said, he was handpicked by the county. And the bay, well, we call it Matanzas Bay today. It's a pretty word, but it translates into the word massacre or bloody slaughter. So everybody kind of has two sides, and that's the not nice side of him. We're going to work our way, as I said, over to the Mission Nombre de Dios, and I think that's the area, the best area in which to start the tour out. Hey, coming up on the left, a lot of people never noticed this drinking fountain. That's really old. You could actually go online and see photos of horses drinking out of it. Dirt roads, people wearing funny looking clothing. Of course, no automobiles back then. They hadn't been invented yet. And we got the Bridge of Lions coming up in front of the train, where complete restoration was done. All that time we had a temporary bridge here, $17 million temporary bridge. We paid for it from a former mayor by the name of Dr. Andrew Anderson. If you cross that bridge, go straight down the road a mile and a half. On your left is Anastasia Island State Park. In the state park is the old Coquina Quarry. Coquina is a tiny, tiny prehistoric shell rock. Many, many years ago, men used knives and hatchets to cut pieces of it out of the ground. And when they lifted it up, it was soft and wet, like fresh cheese. So they would form these pieces into the shape of blocks and let them 23 years of doing that to complete it. It was finished in 1695. The Castillo de San Marcos was built under the direction of the Spanish military engineers. It was put together by soldiers, townsfolk, Indian labor, and the town would empty out. Everybody would go inside the fort as they were safe inside. 51 days, including Spanish people. You hear what I'm saying? It was not running. They were walking. They didn't have weapons in their hands either. They brought food, and they stood around and they watched the new people, States of America, and it all started right there. You might be wondering, what about the Pilgrims, Scott? Well, I read those books too. Looking in the back of the train, most of us are old. The books that we read were wrong. They were written by the English. So what did they do? 300 to 350 years old. Folks, that's pretty old. But this tree coming up on the right was standing right there when Juan Ponce de Leon landed in 1513. This tree is so old that it is about to cover a 60-foot train. She has a name. We call her the Old Senator. Why? Simple. She's shady, she's crooked, just like an old senator. Now, I do have a little bit of Magnolia Avenue. National Geographic magazine called it one of the prettiest roadways in the country and featured it in the magazine in 1965. There's a peacock on the wall to the right.
Who planted the trees?
The plants in the trees are called Spanish moss. That's what it's said to resemble a Spanish gentleman's beard. It's kind of an air plant, but you don't want to mess with it because there's chiggers in it.
Right. And which people planted the trees?
The people that lived in the area here, just local residents, did that. You'll see parts and pieces of them all around the city. You want to be really careful. They're very, very sharp. Over here on the right, I'm not sure if the gate is open yet. Let's see. No, they're not open yet, but I want to talk about the area over there. This is the Fountain of Youth Archaeological Park. This is the oldest tourist attraction in the state of Florida. They actually have guest books here going back to 1886. Now, the earliest Christian burial sites in North America have been discovered back there. Over 4,000 years ago, the pyramids were being built in Egypt. Over 4,000 years ago, people were living there. It was the Timucuan Indians. It was their village of Saloy. Remember I mentioned the word Saloy earlier? That was the name of the bay. The native Indians named it that, the Bay of Dancing Dolphins, but today it's called the Bay of Matanzas. Now, out of respect for the families that live on William Street, they're from 1890 to 1953. The jail was bought, built, paid for by a man by the name of Henry Flagler. Why? Well, Henry had a problem. He built beautiful hotels in the city, but his hotels were too close to the original jail. What happened? Prisoners cried at night. During the daytime hours, they harassed and annoyed his guests. He said he was going to go to the far, far away up north area of the city, buy some land, and donate a new jail. Well, welcome to the far away up north area of the city. 1890, Flagler bought this land, hired the Pauley Jail Company, and they designed and built one of the most beautiful jails you could ever dream of. The building right in front of us. I know jails are not supposed to be pretty and inviting, but this one was, and it led to a problem. Imagine coming into town on horse and carriage after a long journey, and that's the first building you see. Of course you think it was a hotel. Well, the sheriff would have to come running out telling you you could not check in here. You needed to go way down south to get to the hotels. Now, usually but I want to talk to you about something that's a little bit further up the road. I wish I could take you there, but I can't. Coming up on the right is the beautiful Vilano Beach area of the city. Nice area to visit. The beaches aren't as crowded. Cross the bridge, turn left. On the right is Surfside Park. You got free changing rooms and showers and parking and barbecues right there on the beach for you to use. Here on the left is the carousel. That's the library over there on the left. This carousel was built the same year the Bridge of Lions was built. Coming up on our right in just a moment, truly an amazing place, the Florida School for the Deaf and Blind. The school started out with 4 students and 1 teacher. Today it's as big as a college campus. There's no cost whatsoever for any child to ever attend that school. They have all the extracurricular activities, sports, and programs that the non-deaf and blind schools have. However, here, 85% of the students that graduate each year go on to have successful college careers. And that is the school that music legend Ray Charles attended from 1937 until 1945, but he did not graduate from that school. He was kicked out for a lousy reason. He was an amazing performer. One afternoon he was giving a performance at the school. People walked up to him afterwards and they gave him money, coins. He couldn't believe it. His teacher walked up to him and said, "Ray, what are you going to do with all that money? You got a lot of money there. You can buy a lot of candy for you and your friends." They don't even go past the jail. That road that I'm pointing at is called San Marco Avenue. And the road behind us is called Take Care of It. Fits it. But they brought it, I didn't come to town to hear about civil rights stuff, and I said, "Man, that's part of the history of the city." But some people don't understand. He called it his little winter vacation house, stayed there with his wife and 14 children. In 1950, as I said, it became the world's first believe it or not. The building coming up on the right is the Visitors Information Center. It was the last building built in the city, made entirely out of coquina, that soft prehistoric shell rock quarried on Anastasia Island. Just past the building, coming up on the right, a large round ball made out of coquina. I'm pointing to it. This ball is mile marker 0 of the old Spanish Trail, another name of the road we're on right now. Long ago, a 14-foot tall wooden wall ran from the fort on the left, and that wall went all the way down to the river on our right. The only way in and out of the city for many years was here on the left. You crossed the drawbridge over the waterway through the city gates. Henry Flagler took out that waterway. He called it progress. St. Augustine was a Catholic city. If you were Catholic, you could be buried within the walled-in city. If you were not Catholic, your final resting spot over there on the wall was called the Cubo Defense United States of America. It is called the Talamado Cemetery. When you kiss the one you love in the area of the tree, you'll remain together forever, just like those two trees will. Did you know that, sir? You didn't know that? Did you know there's a jewelry store right around the corner that way? Yeah, he's in trouble. Actually, the city's still owned by the Spanish government today, along with a beautiful statue of Queen Isabella in the center. Henry Flagler, he made his first million in the salad grain. He had hotels, he had the railway, and he was co-founder of the Standard Oil Company with Mr. John Rockefeller. He was the second richest man in the country. The doors are solid cedar. They are hand carved. They weigh over 700 pounds apiece. The church, designed by the young architectural firm Wise Henry Flagler's Church, a few years back named one of the top 10 most beautiful religious buildings in the world. Valued at over $35 million. Tiffany was hired by Flagler as the interior decorator at the hotel. Stained glass was his hobby back. And on the left, Henry Flagler's best friend's house. Villa Zareta was his winter residence. It's kind of his representation of the real Alhambra Palace in Granada, Spain. The real palace. I don't. 6 men were slaves. They escaped.